After a week of pouring rain and flash flood conditions, it finally stopped raining in western North Carolina. My friend Andy and I went looking for some reishi in some old growth hemlock groves deep in the forest. There was less mushrooms than we were expecting, but we did find reishi growing a few miles up the trail. We found a large reishi growing high up in a hemlock tree, and it took a little bit of work to get it off the tree. And we also found some smaller specimens as well. Last year was a really good year for reishi. This year it seems like they're not as common. Reishi tends to fluctuate a little bit season to season, and I'm still not exactly sure what factors are responsible for that. The most common variety of reishi on the East Coast is Hemlock Reishi, Ganoderma tsugae. So the key to finding this variety is locating hemlock trees. Hemlock trees are a shady evergreen tree that is similar to pine. However, it has individually attached needles opposed to pine needles' bunches of needles. Hemlock needles are easily identified by the underside where there are two white racing stripes. The next week I joined my friend Kevin as he led a guided foraging tour. We found a hemlock tree that had a ton of reishi on it, including this giant piece. This piece was very high up in a tree, so we had to get a long stick to get it down. This piece of reishi was just about reaching maturity. Reishi starts out as a white node forming on the sides of hemlock trees, and from there it'll start to form little antlers and fan out in a kidney shape. At its adolescent stage, reishi will be red towards the center, then it'll have a ring of orange, then a ring of yellow, then an outer ring of white. One sustainable harvesting technique at this stage is to cut the outer white ring and just harvest that, and the reishi should regrow in the same season. This outer white ring of reishi is the only part that is actually soft enough to eat. You can cook it up and it's quite tasty, but I like to save most of it for medicinal use. When reishi is fully mature, it'll take on this dark maroon red color and often become quite dirty on the top of the mushroom because the spores will collect on the top, but if you pour water on it, it'll start to get that waxy sheen that you see the new growth reishi having. Later I went hiking on my own in this beautiful rainforest, and I found a hemlock tree with a bunch of old reishi on it. Then I checked the sides of the same tree and I found one new growth of reishi. The underside of reishi will be white with a ton of barely visible pores. This mushroom is a polypore, so it'll have no gills whatsoever. One of the ways I try to find out about the health of reishi is by looking at the white pores on the underside. And if I see any discoloring or anything, I'll cut those parts off. And if the whole thing is discolored on the bottom, then I just leave it alone and I don't harvest that one at all. If you find reishis from previous years, you'll notice that the bottom will be dull dark and it'll have no white on the underside. After reishi becomes fully mature and starts producing spores, it attracts a lot of beetles. So the condition of reishi specimens can vary wildly after this point. Some reishi you'll find at this point will be pristine, while other specimens will be riddled with holes and beetles. After I find a lot of reishi, I try to dehydrate it within 1 to 2 days, or else it might get moldy. I chop reishi into thin slices, then I put it on my dehydrator at 135 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. You can also dry them out in the sun as well, and that adds extra vitamin D to them. Once you bought reishi home and dehydrated it, you can use it for tea or tinctures. Now to make a potent reishi tea, you want to brew it for 1 to 2 hours. To make a tincture with reishi, you want to use a ratio of 1 to 5 or 1 to 2 mushroom to alcohol. And you want to let that soak in a mason jar for a month and a half or longer. In ancient China, these mushrooms were revered as an herb of immortality and used exclusively by emperors and royalty. These mushrooms do have a lot of verified health benefits though. Reishi has polysaccharide compounds called beta-glucans, which help regulate immune function. So if the body's immune system is underactive, the beta-glucans can raise the immune function of the body and help ramp it up. But if the immune system is underactive in case of autoimmune disorders, the beta-glucans can bring it down back into balance. Reishi also has compounds called Triterpenes, which help relieve allergies with their antihistamine actions. Reishi also protects against air pollutants like car exhaust. Reishi extracts have been shown to block car exhaust molecules from entering into our cells. I find that these mushrooms also help calm my nervous system and help me feel at peace. You can find an extract of wild reishi, chaga, and lion's mane on my website. While I was out looking for reishi, I also found another medicinal plant, ghost pipe. Now this flower is very interesting because it has no chlorophyll, so it relies on a relationship with mycelium in the soil to get its nutrients. This flower is a ghostly, translucent color. This plant is known for its pain-relieving properties and its ability to address emotional trauma. This plant can help you see your physical and emotional pain from new perspectives. I try not to harvest too much of this plant and use it exclusively in tinctures where I can get the most use out of it. After you harvest this flower, you'll have to get it in a tincture or dry it pretty quickly because it'll turn pitch black and kind of start dissolving.